So my name is Hannah Davis. I graduated in psychology from the University of Manchester in 2020, and I now work as a UX researcher based in Manchester. I think with digital skills, first of all, we live in a digital world, and if people aren't upskilling in digital, you're falling behind essentially. Most of us now, we spend more time on screens than in real life almost. And I think it's really important to know how that works rather than just be a slave to algorithms and notifications. The more of an understanding you can have of how it works and how these business models are is useful to you. So to upskill in that, I joined a web development course when I was at university, and I learned some over the course of my degree. I went to the hackathon in Manchester and picked up a lot from a lot of physics students there. And that was really helpful to me in getting into UX. And in terms of networking, I think that's the other huge pillar that everyone needs in any job. The more I see, the more I know you can't do things in a vacuum. It's all about the people you have around you and the team that you have. And to give an example of that, when I was first getting interested in UX, so my first role as a UX researcher, that essentially came about through networking. It was a lady who I met in the co-working space I was in, and we got along well, and that was how I heard about the opportunity. And I think having that prior knowledge and exposure to her company made me want to apply for it and made us have that basis to work together in it that I wouldn't have if it was just a listing online somewhere. And networking as well is really useful to get upskilled in a role. If you can find people who are willing to support you and help you, and you can do anything you can to help them as well, it really works out better than trying to just do everything yourself sometimes. And that's one that I've learned the hard way, because I do learn a lot myself. It's realizing that more people are willing to help you than you think, and all you have to do is ask. The worst that can happen is they won't help, and you'll find that people do want to help more than you think they would. And so finally, in terms of research and critical thinking, so that's a big one in my role as a UX researcher. Obviously, I have to look at a lot of data and gather data, make sure that it's all okay and good quality to go forwards with it. I think research and critical thinking is useful in choosing a role and deciding where you want to go with your career. When you're as an undergraduate, it can feel like there's so many opportunities and it can feel a bit overwhelming, and you're probably just thinking in terms of your specific degree. So when I started out in psychology, I thought that it would just be psychology related roles, so working with the NHS, so as a therapist. And it's more been realizing that the research background and the statistics feeds in really well into UX and into a lot of the technical roles, and using that. So yeah, I'd say all three of those, particularly for UX. So networking, research, and digital skills are really useful. And I'd say in general, they're very useful in the 21st century. So with digital skills, I wasn't super technical when I started out in psychology. I did IT at A level and maths at AS, but after that, I didn't really get into computer science and all that side of things. But what really helped me at university was I did my internship in the psychology department on an app for psychosis called Act Assist. And as part of that, I was mostly based with research assistants, but I got exposure to people working in health informatics. So this was the people who built the app, and they were doing the technical side of it. I got to interview them and hear about the languages they were building in and the safeguards they were putting in place. And then I got to see people using the app who were suffering with psychosis and did find the app helped them. And that was kind of my introduction to realizing that tech can be for good and that I wanted to do more in that space. So after that, I applied for the hackathon for the University of Manchester Computer Science Society. I joined that event, and that was great. There were people from ManMet and the university there as well. So that was great because that was quite interdisciplinary. It wasn't just psychology. There was a lot of physics graduates and computer science grads there to learn from. And networking, the university really pushed us to get LinkedIn. And at the time when I was in first year, you're thinking, why am I getting on LinkedIn? I just want to enjoy my time at uni. And I can say that LinkedIn has probably been huge in getting roles in general. And for the role I'm in now, that was actually a recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn because of my profile and because they saw my experience. And that's how I got the role I'm in now. So it really is useful. Like if you're a student and you're not on LinkedIn already, you should be, because it's where most of the jobs will be. And research and critical thinking, that was pretty much the bread and butter of what we did in psychology. It was a lot of research papers that we were reading and reports that we were producing. So we had to conduct a study for my dissertation. There were 120 participants within that. And in terms of essay papers before then, we were always researching and sourcing and trying to make sure the studies that were used did have good quality data, and that it was basically replicable and it was valid. So yeah, that it was built up a lot over the course of my degree, and just the community in Manchester around that. So just extracurricular things as well were really important. So, in terms of my first graduate job, I was a junior engineer at Host in Media City, UK. And it was a bit of networking for that. And again, it was digital skills, because what I was doing in my role there, it was some technical and research work, and it was also a lot of speaking to clients and being in an external facing role. So building those up, we had some training in place where we got upskilled in AWS for Amazon Web Services, and we also had some personal development. So in terms of personal growth, we did a presentation and had group work that we did as well. And that came in really handy over the role. I think the main way you learn a role is by doing it, and that can be really good upskilling, where you do learn a lot from week to week. There's no amount of preparation can be as good as doing it on the job in a way, but yeah, it fed into that. It was a bit of everything for me, because I had my degree in psychology and I hadn't held a tech role before that at all. So the fact that it was for a tech startup in Media City in Manchester was a huge part of that for me, just getting exposure to that ecosystem. We had people working in VR and XR and all of these different fields in the public sector, in the private sector. And that was great. It was a really broad exposure to that that feeds into how I got into UX now, because I got to do a bit of research within the role. And that was more business research. And then it just sort of slowly narrowed down in the roles since then to become a UX researcher now. And that's what I enjoy doing. And I figured out that I enjoyed research so much in that first role.